Teddy, my heart horse, my best boy, my eventer. After suffering an incident that caused a bone fracture in his leg, he was rushed into surgery. While it was successful and he will be okay, his eventing career is over. This left a massive hole in my life, as I no longer had a horse I could count on to show with me. While I did have Firefly, he seemed to be most interested in dressage, so I didn't want to push the role of eventing with me onto him. This left me with one option. I needed to find my next eventer. That was dramatic, I'm sorry. Hello everyone! Today, I'm going to be sharing with you guys the horse shopping journey that I've been on for the last couple weeks. It's been weird shopping for a horse to replace Teddy. Well, not replace him, because no horse can, but fill in for him for the foreseeable future. When I attended the Jorvik Equestrian Festival Invitational with Teddy in April, I was reminded of how much I adore eventing. Picking the horse that's going to help me continue to be successful in my riding career is a lot of pressure, which is why I need your input on the matter. I think I have a good idea of which horse I'd like to buy, but the decision hasn't yet been officially made, so I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments. Without any further ado, let's start with the first horse I tried, Alina. Standing at 15 hands high, Alina, or Flying Across Magic Meadow, was an 11-year-old Appaloosa mare. Her ad, which I found through a local Facebook group, caught my attention due to the uniqueness of her coat. It's so adorable, and while I don't typically fixate on the coats of horses I'm interested in buying, tell me this isn't the cutest freaking Appaloosa you've ever seen. At the end of the day though, it's a horse's skill and experience that makes them a good eventer, not how cute they may be. With her highly impressive pedigree, I definitely had high hopes for this horse. When I arrived at Moreland Stables, I found Alina in the pasture after chatting with her owner, and took the opportunity to catch and tack her up myself. This is something I'd really recommend doing with horses you may plan on buying, just because it gives you the chance to see how their ground manners are. Although she was cooperative and polite as I brought her over to the cross ties, Alina was definitely also very curious as to who I was. She didn't let me out of her sight once, always either staring directly at or side-eyeing me. Once we were ready to ride, we started out with some flat work. The first thing I noticed was that Alina was a very looky horse. There were a couple butterflies fluttering around, which really caught her eye and caused her to stop a few times. While it was cute at first, it definitely got old quickly. This is a behavior I'm sure I'd be able to train out, but I'd rather buy a horse that has little to no behavioral issues. Additionally, she preferred a little more contact than I was used to, but that wasn't a problem. Once we were sufficiently warmed up, we headed into the jumping arena. Overall, I was pretty impressed with Alina's jumping ability. While we did have a few awkward distances, she was still a talented jumper. Afterwards, she seemed to have plenty of energy left, so with permission from her owner, we headed to the beach to do some cross-country. Alina was definitely very wary of the water, but despite that, she didn't back down from a single jump. From our time riding together, I gathered that she was a very high-energy, strongly motivated horse. While this is a good trait for eventers, it can also make it difficult to hold them back. That's it for Alina. She was fun to ride, although she certainly had her quirks. The following foggy morning, I traveled to a very fancy barn by Silverglade Manor to check out a horse who was well on his way to being in the Jorvik Olympics. Cinna, or Prince of Poise, was a 12-year-old Dutch warmblood gelding and 16.2 hands high. Like I mentioned, he was busy training in preparation for the next Jorvik Olympics when his owner suffered an injury that unfortunately wouldn't allow him to ride ever again. I never would have even gotten the opportunity to try him if it hadn't been for my old trainer, who immediately reached out to Cinna's owner for me when I informed her I was looking for an eventer while we were grabbing coffee. So, shout out to her. When I arrived at the barn, Cinna was all tacked up and ready for me to go. The arena was a short hack away, so I got the opportunity to observe his manners as we rode. The second I mounted this handsome horse, I could just tell that I was riding an Olympian in training. He felt so strong and muscular, and I'm sure his owner put in a ton of work to get him to this point. If I were to buy him, that would mean the responsibility of keeping up with Cinna's needs would fall on me. Once the arena was in view, Cinna's ears perked up and he started to speed up a little bit. I had to tell him to slow down a couple of times before he actually listened, which just showed how excited he was to do his job. Once we arrived at the arena, we got straight to jumping as our little ride had served as a warm-up. Unlike the previous day's horse, Cinna wasn't looky at all but extremely attentive to the jumps. It actually started raining pretty heavily outside at one point, but the sound of the raindrops falling on the roof had no effect on him. He was a beautiful jumper. His fearless attitude really reminded me of my Teddy, which honestly made me a little emotional. I may or may not have shed a few tears as I said goodbye to Cinna. Obviously, both him and Teddy are warmbloods, so they share that similarity, but they also just have similar temperament and vibes. I could see myself riding this horse out on trails around Firefly Fields, but also in high-level shows. It was truly an honor and such a pleasure to ride him. Directly after my ride with Cinna, I drove just a little ways away to try out my second horse of the day. This 10-year-old cute Arabian, who stood at 14.3 hands, was, coincidentally, also named Jasmine and didn't yet have a show name. I'm gonna be totally honest. I was considering not showing you guys the footage of me trying Jasmine. However, I want to be totally transparent with you guys, so here this is. Once I arrived at the barn where Jasmine was staying, I met her owner by the arena, who had already tacked her up. Right off the bat, this was a bit of a bummer since I didn't get to observe Jasmine's ground manners, but it wasn't a huge deal. Things started to get a little weird when I tried to mount her. She just was not having it. She looked like she didn't want to be there, and she kept shifting around, which made it really difficult to get on her back. Once I was finally able to mount her, we started off with some flat work. Jasmine just looked miserable. Her owner encouraged me to keep riding, saying she just needed a warm-up, so I tried to trust her and keep going. When it was time to jump, I was especially hesitant due to the way Jasmine was eyeing the jumps, but after once again being pressured by her owner, we cantered towards the first jump, and she bucked me off. It was kind of embarrassing, to be honest. It was definitely partially my fault because I should have known not to even try Jasmine, but also, what was her owner thinking? After that, I gathered myself and left. Her owner tried to stop me, saying that Jasmine was just having an off day and I should come back, but I didn't. I don't regret it. I mean, would I really get a horse named after myself? Let's be honest, I probably wouldn't. And that concludes my horse shopping journey. I'm honestly really struggling with deciding between the adorable yet quirky Alina and Cinna, who reminds me so much of my baby. I don't want any personal bias to get in the way of picking the right horse, so please inform me of your opinions in the comments. The second I am officially the owner of one of these lovely horses, I will let you guys know on my Instagram. So if you're as impatient as I am, feel free to follow me over there. If you enjoyed this video, I make plenty of these kinds of vlogs, so consider subscribing or just leaving a like to show your appreciation. I love you guys so much. Bye!